as we turn to another big trending story in the world of true crime and trial. That's the murder of Suzanne Morphew. Her husband, Barry Morphew, could be out of jail soon. So he was back in court this week after he's been indicted for the second time, accused of murdering his wife, Suzanne. On Tuesday, the judge denied his request for a bond reduction. So he's in on $3 million cash only. They wanted it to be $500,000 cash. The judge said no on that, but did make some modifications to the conditions that may allow him to get out of jail. So here are the modifications. He could potentially post through some other means that would require less money up front, including a 10% surety bond through a bail bondsman or property bondsman. Property bond, rather. Morphew's lawyer said that he could also come up with $500,000 in cash to help him get there. Wow. Okay. So we're wondering, is Barry Morphew going to walk out of jail anytime soon? John Phillips, what do you think, please?
I think he will. You know, this federal system and the state systems are trying their hardest to keep the cloak of innocence until proven guilty up until the end of a trial, the jury verdict. And so they want more people to have bond and bail, and then they've got to work with the conditions. And a $3 million cash bail is a non-starter for the 99.9%, but with some terms that would allow a cash portion if you can find the right bondsman that'd say, all right, I'll take your $500,000 and we're going to keep an ankle monitor and we're going to keep an in-house security person, at your doorstep, and we're going to make sure we get you to jail. I mean, to court on time. I think that's what was weighed here, and I know there was a lot of back and forth about his true ties to the community and all of that. But given how high profile this is, I don't think this is going to be somebody that finds a place to hide. Right.
I agree with you, John, on that point. Thinking back, he was charged once. We know the charges were withdrawn by the DA's office. We won't even get into that whole mess, but they were. And he didn't flee the country. He didn't get a one-way ticket to Vietnam. He stuck around, right? He's got kids. Rob O'Donnell, what do you think? Is he a flight risk?
I don't think he's a flight risk, but I think this is a very dangerous case. Here's an experienced subject. He's been through this before, and he withstood the questioning from prosecutors, from investigators in this case. So he's just going through this again. And with his experience in dealing with the charges being dropped the first time with prejudice, which is a good thing, there are different dynamics here because there is some forensic evidence that's found now with the bones that were recovered from his wife. But again, the autopsy on that material that was found is again inconclusive. So he's a dangerous subject because he's been through this before and he has that experience. And if he realizes, if he keeps up that same demeanor that he did the first time, unless they come up with some dynamic evidence, he may just walk on this.
Yeah. Let's look at, we have time for one more clip. This is a little battle going on in the courtroom on Tuesday, and it has to do with this BAM evidence, we're calling it. So the tranquilizer drug used in hunting. Okay, that was big because that was found in Suzanne Morphew's system. We know we found that tranquilizer dart cap in the dryer. The detectives found it, and that was part of the link to Barry Morphew and part of the charging. Let's listen to what was said in court.
Insofar as the indictment, Your Honors, the court knows, that is a cherry-picked piece of narrative that has been created exclusively by the district attorney. The BAM that the district attorney mentions that Mr. Morphew had access to, I want to be clear on, was prescribed to him in the state of Indiana in 2018. Mr. Morphew has not had access to BAM since 2018.
The remains of Suzanne Morphew after an autopsy contained a chemical compound that Mr. Morphew had almost exclusive access to, tying him directly to the remains of his wife. The case in 2021 was arguably entirely circumstantial with no body. This case is very different.
Okay, so Rob O'Donnell, I want to ask you, when it comes to this BAM evidence, obviously we see the defense wants to fight to keep this out. How key do you think it is to the case of what happened to Suzanne?
Well, with this here, I think it's easy for them before a jury to say, how many of you sitting in the jury have expired medication at home? Every jurisdiction in our nation has expired medication giveaway. So the fact that he had access to this in 2018 and could possibly still have it today or still have it in his possession, I think a prosecution team can easily convince a jury that I think we all have expired medication somewhere in our closet. And to the extent where every jurisdiction has your old medication or your expired medication give-backs programs. So it is very possible and very likely that he did still have access to this medication.
Great point, Rob. Yeah, the time doesn't preclude that possibility. Excellent analysis from you both. As always, Rob O'Donnell, host of The Rob O'Donnell Show. Celebrity attorney John Phillips, thank you both so much.